Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. I want to talk to you today about the intersection of two things that are really important to me. And one is having a deep commitment to being pacifist. I certainly consider myself to be a pacifist. I don't even believe in capital punishment. I'm very much just a violence is, something to avoid kind of person. And something else that it requires a little bit more work on my part to kind of take into consideration when I'm looking at the world. And that is tone policing. I have noticed that in the wake of this, healthcare CEO assassination thing, that there's been a lot of tone policing from more moderate, like Democrat types. And I think that's something that we need to call out and help people resist, because even if I don't believe in my personal experience that I would engage in violence outside of, like, immediate self-defense, doesn't mean that I should impose my views or my perspective on other people. Oftentimes when somebody who is powerful does something wrong, and a marginalized community will, react to that in some way that, the moderate people find unacceptable. That, for example, in the wake of the, George Floyd murder and all of the, riots and street action, marches, demonstrations, all, prayer circles, all of the things that happened. A lot of the time, the, like, message that marginalized communities, and in that case specifically Black people, were trying to get across was ignored in favor of critiquing how they expressed their thoughts and feelings. And in moments like that, I can't help but be reminded of something that, Martin Luther King Jr. said, which was that a riot is the language of the unheard. Is it right for me to tell somebody whose community has been enacted upon in such a way that has been the target of state violence? That's what, police officers killing unarmed Black people is. That state violence. How am I to tell that community how they're supposed to react in a moment like that? That's not my place. I'm not here to critique someone else's reaction, another marginalized person's reaction. And I think that that's sort of the similar thing that I'm seeing right now is a lot of the, my parents, for example. Every time that they talk about the healthcare CEO assassination thing, all they talk about is how distasteful it is that people are, so celebratory in their response. And I think the more interesting conversation is why people are reacting that way. Instead of saying that is a, unexpected response That's not what you would expect out of, normal people to celebrate someone being executed. Why are they doing that? Because it's not from nothing. It's not coming from nowhere. When people make jokes about that situation or talk about how hot the guy was or blah, 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 any of that stuff, there is a reason they're saying it. They're not just saying it to be jerks. There is a reason why they feel the way they do, and they're expressing their feelings the way that they're expressing them. And it's not my place or anyone else's place to tone police that. I think we have to let go of the much easier conversation of talking about the appropriateness of the messenger instead of the message. Like, I'm sorry, but if somebody who is a complete jerk says something that's really, really true, the fact that they're a jerk does not change the veracity of what they said. Even the worst person in the world can tell you something that is accurate. Even the smartest person in the world can tell you something that's not true. We have to not just take things for granted. We have to not impose our priorities and our values on other people. Other people are allowed to prioritize things and value things differently than we do. And it is not some sort of moral failing on their part. It is not any sort of sign that we are better or worse than each other. Two people can be very well educated, very sensible people, and look at the same set of facts and come to different conclusions, because that is a feature of humanity. Humanity is not just one individual. We are a colony, a symbiotic organism that works within each other. We can't live alone. We don't live alone. We build on the ideas of other humans. And the fact that there are so many of us that can look at things in so many different ways is why we're able to advance technologically so well. It is a feature, not a bug. It is a feature of the human race for us to be different and diverse and have different priorities and have different values. These things we have to embrace and see that that is a strength of the human species, that we have this ability to, as a community, work and see things from different points of view and compete and collaborate and critique and, be influenced by each other and build upon other people's ideas. And all of that is a good thing. We don't need to resist. We don't need to impose our values on other people. The last time that I shot a gun, I shot the ground right near my feet because I was scared and I didn't want to actually shoot because I'm gun shy. I don't like loud noises, and guns are really loud. And they, I was, I think it was a rifle probably that I was using. Kickback and all that. I can hold a blank pistol and go boo 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 boo, but I can't. So I probably could use a handgun if I had to, but I don't wanna. I don't know if I could take a handgun and point at another person and pull the trigger. You know, again, except for immediate self-defense or, defend somebody else, that's a different sort of circumstance. But, I just don't know if I could. I never, my family's a hunting family. I never shot anything. I technically went hunting in that I went with my dad and sat in the snow and held a gun and was miserable for a while. And so I went deer hunting. But that's about it. I didn't shoot anything because I don't have any problem with hunting. That's just not me, you know? And maybe that's why it's a little bit easier for me to get over that impulse, that deep human instinct to believe that everybody else's priorities and values either are the same as yours or should be the same as yours. I was watching FD Signifier videos a lot recently, because I was kind of rewatching things that I thought were kind of my favorite videos of this year. And I fell asleep and then woke up and a different video was playing, and it was the like conservatives are bad at sex. And I didn't realize that's what the video was at first. All I did was I was kind of waking up and I heard someone talking about like an asexual perspective on things. And so I just assumed it was like some asexual content creator that I follow, like I didn't know that it was someone who isn't asexual or aromantic's video. And when I realized that, I was just like so overwhelmed and like pleased and I felt seen. And I'm like, wow, he actually talked about, aromantic people in terms of like conservatives and sex. And I feel like I'm the only person I ever see talking about that. And that's amazing. And I'm like, oh, wow, but he is one of the few people that I've seen actually say, hey, this is part of the problem, is that there are probably some conservatives who are aromantic or asexual, and they don't understand that, and they can impose those, values and what feels right to them on other people without understanding that other people literally feel something different that they don't and can't. I'm just like, we need more of that. We need more of taking the time to actively listen to the other people's perspective in our community. Because especially you'll see this on the Democrats or the left side, there can be a lot of like infighting, right? Every single person in these communities has their own unique perspective, their own sort of intersectionality of, identities and history and, work experience, school experience, anything like that. And so when you have a situation like that, if you don't learn how to listen to each other, then you can never work as a collective. You can never bring the community up because you're always getting stuck at that point where you can't even start to coalesce and work together. And I think that sometimes the right has an advantage here because part of being right wing is a conformity. It is you get in line and you do what the status quo says. If everyone in the in group that you want to be part of says we believe in X, even if you find that abhorrent, you either have to look the other way or you have to get in line. Or you'll be cut out. I mean, that's what happens to, say, a Liz Cheney that part of the Republican Party, if they didn't, give it up and decide that they are willing to take cues from the MAGA hat brigade, then they were promptly kicked out, because it's absolute compliance with the status quo, with following the community. And once you make any sort of stance against the community, you're out. And you might as well be the leftist lefty in the entire world to those people, because you can be as conservative as you want to be. You're never going to be a Republican again. Sorry. And it's funny to me how, because the left doesn't seem to quite understand how to build a coalition, we just end up with this haphazard group that has to have, people who are very socially conservative but identify as Democrats, your Manchins or whatever. And then we also have to have, like, the actual left, like, they really are, like, communist and socialist kind of people. And, try to squash them all into a party and find a candidate that they're all going to be like, this is my candidate I'm excited about. That's tough, I think there has to be more mindful coalition building, more understanding that you need to speak to different groups and make sure that they're all being heard and included, instead of being like, the other side is so horrible, you have to vote for us. I think that was really the problem with the last election, is that there was this thought that, well, the other side is so bad, this is not a perfect candidate, but they're better than the alternative. Nobody gets excited for that. They're better than the alternative is admitting up front that they're not a great candidate, that the base isn't excited about. And, geez, I don't know. I mean, like, the way that you build a coalition, I think, is that you have to make sure that all parts of the community feel included. And the Democratic Party just likes to ignore parts of the party that they don't like. They feel inconvenient. They play respectability politics, They didn't put a Palestinian person on the DNC stage, did they? No. They try to avoid controversy. And the fact of the matter is, you can't play it safe. I was watching something, I think it was Sean's video about Stellar Blade or something, and he was saying, like, you can't always, like, fight against the tide. And I'm like, yeah, you have to make your own tides, And you don't make your own tides by ignoring the humanity in other people, by tone policing other people and telling them that they shouldn't feel a certain way, that they shouldn't express their feelings in a certain way. How are you ever going to have a conversation with somebody if, as soon as they express themselves, you tell them that the way that they express themselves was wrong? Seek to understand. If somebody expresses themselves in a way that you find uncomfortable or unacceptable, find out why they did that. People don't just do things out of nowhere. I used to work in customer service, and when people would call up and be just horrible about minor problems, really, and And I just always knew there had to have been something else in their life that was making them that angry. This problem isn't that big of a deal. They're stressed about their bills, or they feel powerless in their life and they want to exert power. And the one time they feel like they have some power, damn it. Well, those are external things. It wasn't about me, right? And it wasn't even really about them. It's about the whole world. Everything is part of what I'm talking about here, like you gotta you've got to take a minute and stop when something seems wrong or outrageous or mystifying to you. Stop and seek to understand. I mean, really. I was thinking about when ContraPoints got canceled, and people were saying, okay, she believes this, based on whatever evidence they cobbled together from tweets out of context or whatever it was, right? And she made this point when she was responding to all that, or talking about being canceled. She said, like, I have made hours and hours of really thoughtful, deliberate work expressing my views on things. And if you think like one tweet out of context is more indicative of who I am and what I really think than all of this content that I've already provided to you, I don't know what to say to you. Like, that's a very, very loose paraphrase of what she says. But, I think that's true. Like, people are more than one thing they say. People are more than anything they say, okay? And so when it comes to a situation like with the assassination, or any other bad thing that happens, the Ocean Gate Titan explosion, or anything like that, when you see people gleefully celebrating the downfall of these sort of heads of state-ish type people, these, modern day nobility, doesn't that give you a little bit of a pause? If we're in a society where you have the peasants basically out here calling for the blood of the rich and powerful, the landed gentry, the lords and ladies of modern American society, I start feeling like, okay, people are making guillotine jokes. Don't you get this? Don't you understand why they would do that? And rather than say, oh, that joke is in bad taste, we need to address the fact that our society is getting so unstable that it makes you think that maybe some sort of cultural revolution could happen. And that's never going to be a good thing. That's going to cause violence. I know there's a lot of people that think they want that, especially the gun-toting right. They really think they want to have, like, some sort of civil war again. Like, that would solve anything. It's so silly. But, of course, anyone who thinks they have social status thinks that that kind of thing wouldn't affect them, because war really affects children and the elderly and sick and weak. And, Like, the people who suffer the most during war are the people who are the most vulnerable when it's not war. So, if you have a civil war, you guys go out and you have little fun cosplay or whatever. The people that are going to suffer the most are people like me, your children or grandchildren, anyone who gets sick or injured during times of upheaval. I mean, a lot of people died during COVID, not of COVID, that wouldn't have died normally. Like, I literally have a great uncle who died during COVID of not COVID, but of a health problem that he needed treatment for that had to have been delayed because of COVID. So COVID indirectly caused his death. And he's not the only person that happened to. Anytime any sort of upheaval, social upheaval happens, the most vulnerable people are going to be the ones who pay for it, okay? And so to me, I really don't want to see a violent social upheaval because I feel like that would be bad for marginalized people in society. But I also have to understand that if people feel pushed to use violence to speak, to protest, to say something is wrong, and try to hold those in power accountable for their wrong actions, I need to listen to them and not critique the method of their speech. And I feel like I just keep circling around that same idea, so I should probably end this now before I ramble at you forever. But I just feel like it's really important, you know, when you're someone like me who is pacifist, living in a time like this when there's a lot of conflict, it can be really tough, you know, to not impose your personal values and perspectives on other people in completely different situations than mine. So I hope that you can do that as well. It's challenging, but you know, you're worth it, baby. Oh gosh, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. I really don't. You want to see Casey? Casey's right here. Oh, come here, Casey. Oh, Casey. Oh. He's my bobo. Look how cute he is. He's the best dog that's on my lap because I love other dogs too. You're the best boy. Yes, he is. He really is. Well, family members, Casey and I hope you have a lovely evening. If you have any puppies, give them a cuddle for me. And talk to you later. Bye.